We just heard from a House Republican on his party's efforts to avert a government shutdown. So let's now turn to the other side of the aisle. Joining me now live is Democratic Congresswoman from Michigan, Debbie Dingell. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us here on Meet the Press Now. Do you plan to vote for this latest government funding proposal?
So our caucus hasn't met yet. I've heard so many rumors in the last few days, so many mistruths. I want someone to tell me exactly what's in the agreement, what it's going to be, and then we'll, as a caucus, discuss it and figure out what we're going to be doing. But our caucus hasn't even been scheduled yet. I do hope it's soon.
So if this doesn't fly, are you willing to stay in Washington through the holidays to get this done?
That's my job. We can, I think, our job is to keep the government open. I think a lot of people don't understand how many, we take government for granted, how many people are working and are worried about what's going to happen at the holidays, about not having a paycheck, what's going to happen at the airports to essential services. So none of my colleagues don't want to keep the government open. But if we don't have something that's going to protect working men and women, we can't vote for it, and we'll have to see what's going to be presented.
So, Congresswoman, if your caucus doesn't have a meeting scheduled yet, how quickly could this happen?
Well, we did not adjourn. We recessed. We will come back together fairly quickly, I would guess with 20 minutes, half an hour notice. Grapevine, a lot of grapevines up on the Hill, but you don't know what's true and what's not true, is that we may try for an early evening vote. So, but I think it's really important. The American people have heard a lot of things that aren't true about bills in the last 3 days, and I'm not talking about anything without knowing exactly what the facts are. We haven't even seen the bill. We don't have language. It's not printed.
Congresswoman, there's already a lot of blame going around. Isn't it on all lawmakers to have gotten this done before, just a few hours before they needed to?
I am tired of these shutdowns. I don't think it's a responsible way to run our government. The problem is we should be doing 12 appropriation bills, and the Republicans cannot agree within their own caucus to even bring a bill to the floor. And I know the Republicans that are as frustrated as I am. So yes, it is incumbent upon all of us to try to do this. We had a bipartisan deal. The corners, what's called the four corners, the leaders, Republican, Democratic leaders of both House and Senate agreed to it. And then suddenly Eli Musk, an unelected billionaire who's doubled his wealth since Donald Trump became president, snapped his fingers and, by the way, tweeted almost 200 times on Wednesday with mistruths about the bill all day. That's not the way our government's supposed to work either.
Congresswoman, we often say that there is one president at a time. That president right now, of course, is Joe Biden. So would you have wanted him to be more involved in this process?
You don't know how involved he's been or has not been involved. There were negotiations going on for weeks, months, about bringing this deal together. Then suddenly, both Elon Musk and former and about to be President Trump spoke, and the deal fell apart. The speaker didn't talk to Hakeem Jeffries for more than 24 hours, include him in anything that was being put forward yesterday. So people got to talk to each other to know what's happening. So I think people have understood the importance of communication. I want to work with my colleagues across the aisle. But, you know, it's Congress's job to do this.
Congresswoman, the White House has said that they've been in touch with Democratic leadership on this, but the president has not spoken publicly about this in the last several days. He hasn't answered questions from reporters today. His White House press secretary did say that was part of the strategy, essentially that it was Republicans' mess, and so essentially the White House is getting out of the way here. But shouldn't Americans hear from the President of the United States just several hours before a government shutdown?
I know that the president spoke to Hakeem within the last couple of hours. I know that he and his staff are staying very close to all of this. I'm not quite sure that the Republicans have been wanting to speak to Democrats a lot about this. They've been talking among themselves and trying to reach agreement within their caucus. So I'm not going to let people put the blame on President Biden. It is a Republican bipartisan negotiated deal that fell apart inside the Republican caucus. We all want to work with everybody. I don't want to shut the government down. I've seen a lot of things come together in this kind of time, and I hope we're able to do that.
At some point, Congress will also have to decide on what to do on the debt ceiling. So Trump says he wants to get rid of it, and even some Democrats agree. Senator Warren posting on X yesterday, "I agree with the president-elect that Congress should terminate the debt limit and never again govern by hostage-taking." Do you agree?
This is what I'm going to say. You don't just throw it out the way that it was thrown out. I think it should be a discussion. I probably agree with this hostage taking, but I also don't agree with throwing it out in the middle of what's been weeks and months negotiations and doing it because you want to give billionaires a tax cut is one of the first things that you want to do. I want to make sure that the people that I represent are also protected in everything that's going to happen, and we need to understand the whole picture. That's what is very important in all this, and we're not getting all the facts, seeing the whole picture. That's important.
Congresswoman, Donald Trump will be sworn in exactly a month. So are there areas where Democrats can work with him? For example, he told Kristen Welker he wants to do something to protect Dreamers.
Look, I think it would be wonderful if we could protect Dreamers, and I'll give you an area I will work with them. I think tariffs are a tool in the toolbox, and when he first got, I was the one that told everybody he was going to get elected in 2016. The Democrats did a terrible job about talking about trade. I worked with them on NAFTA, and we still have to fix the USMCA, and I want to work with them on it. So yes, there are we should try to work together in all areas, but they're very specific areas. I totally agree with them on trade, and China is one.
So you may agree with him at least in part on tariffs. At least that's something you could work with him on.
It's a tool in the toolbox, yes.
Okay. After we've seen Trump pull the rug out from under Speaker Johnson on the budget, can Democrats trust any deal they reach with Trump right now?
I think that that's a question people are going to ask, and they're going to be very skittish about anybody giving their word on any deal.
All right, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, we really appreciate your time on this busy afternoon on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.